What's happening, y'all? Hey, that guy coming at you here. We are going to go over a few things with the CRF250F as far as mods that you may not want to actually do to your bike, and we're going to get into that on why, especially after our last ride here at Rock Crusher Farm. Let's jump into a few things on how this actually handled at that Rock Crusher Farm, where we rode quite a bit of harder enduro and a lot of single track with this thing. We're going to go over everything from some stuff that you guys may not want to end up changing on your bike, because I know darn well that after even racing this thing, riding it for long rides, I definitely don't want to change. We're also going to go over the tires. Multiple people have asked about the tires as far as being the Tusk Msx's.
Last mile high. It looks good.
Let's jump into the CRF, which y'all are here for. So we're going to start with a few things, and what I said that you guys may not want to end up changing, and this is just a personal preference, y'all, but what I will say is that through all of the testing that I put this thing through, these are some of the things that I found that I will never change, and I will always go original, genuine Honda on. First, your brake pedal. I did end up bending it at Rock Crusher, but I was able to bend it right back, and that's what we're getting into. Right here, as you can see, yes, I get it. It's a little to the side. So I will always say that your aluminum, yes, I get it. You know, a little bit higher strength, this and that, you know, blah, blah, blah. I don't really care. I'm going to go ahead and just, like I said, speak my opinion, and I will go ahead and tell you that the OEM, you can at least always bend back into place. And the reason this has been replaced before is because I'm going to put a picture right here, which is where my son, somebody had parked a trailer on our property where they were not supposed to, and as he was coming out of our trail system, a branch had hit him in the head and all, and he ended up moving his head, and then when he looked back out, somebody had parked a steel tandem axle trailer right there on our property. And anyway, it bent the entire the foot peg, the bracket and all mounted to the frame, bent the brake pedal, everything all the way back. I mean, just took it 180 degrees and bent it backwards. So anyway, he was all right, but we did have to replace that. So that's where that story came from. Another thing is the shifter. All right, guys, this thing has been bent. If you guys had saw any of my son's footage on his channel, or the video of where I had gifted him this CRF for his birthday this year, you will see that there was a section where I had to end up bending this shift lever back in place. I have done it probably about 3 times now. This last time though, it is stuck really well. Nice thing about this is, no matter how close this thing gets to your case, you can always pull it back out. That's the original shifter that has been on this bike ever since we ended up buying it. All right, guys, the other big question that we've gotten is on our tires, okay? Between our races and our single track and our rides here, and especially where we live, being in Tennessee, we've got nothing but mountains. We're real close to West Virginia, we're real close to Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia. We're pretty much like in that great area right here. But I will go ahead and tell you that due to the terrain that we ride, we are running the Tusk, the Msxc T45 rear tire. And this is also in a 110. We'll show you guys here now what this tire looks like. So just showing you guys here the tread and all, and what these knobs kind of look like after, I would guess, probably about a year. I mean, yeah, they're a little bit chewed up. There's a couple little notches and stuff taken out of some of these knobs, but overall though, I'm extremely satisfied with these tires. We've done a couple races with it, and of course the terrain that we ride being so rocky and in the mountains, it's actually held up a lot better than what I really had expected. And again, this is the Tusk Msxc T45. Now this front tire here, this thing is practically brand new. And again, this is a little bit different. This one is the Msxc T35. It's gone through the same exact abuse, but this thing right here is a little bit more stout. There's hardly nothing in this. Now I'll go ahead and tell you, as far as our front tire goes, that is going to be the Msxc, the T35, not the 45, okay? One is a little bit softer, one is a little bit harder, okay? And I didn't need something that was too soft as far as for the front goes, because I really wasn't biting too much into it. If anything, when I'm riding, we're gonna pull up, we're gonna pop over a lot of stuff, whether it be blipping or just as far as roots, things like that, you know, that you can just give it a little bit of gas. And especially, we're not going to get into as far as performance wise, because you can do it with a stock 250F as well. But with this thing being the race camshaft and of course the 275 big bore kit, I really didn't need to run a softer tire in the front. But let's get into a couple other things that we are going to do with this bike now that we have actually ridden some of probably the toughest single track ever. I'll go ahead and tell you that after riding that single track, y'all, I did realize quite a few things with this bike, okay? And number one being that we are going to try and run 2 rim locks on that rear tire. That way when we lower that tire pressure and all, we don't have that slippage and all of the tire, especially for getting over a lot of the areas that we do ride. And the reason for that is because when we were racing in the GNCC earlier this year, we ran into an issue where we had bent the wheel. The tire ended up slipping all the way around, popped some kind of off the rim a little bit. It was darn near uneven, hanging off. If we would have had 2 rim locks, that would have probably helped to alleviate a little bit of that, but we also were running way too low of tire pressure than what we probably should have been running with only 1 rim lock. So we will end up upgrading to 2 rim locks. We will end up drilling into this wheel. I will have a video on exactly how to do that once we do decide to do it. So that is going to be one thing that we do plan on upgrading as well. All right, guys, I get it. I'm sitting on the Cowie now, but we're going to go over 3 other things that the Cowie has that the CRF doesn't, but some stuff that I would absolutely not change on that CRF. Number 1, of course, power. All right, look, if you want a little bit more power, there are big bore kits from Force Cam. All the links have ever been in my description all the time, every time. Go hit them up, or if you got any questions, check out some of my other videos. I'm pretty sure we've probably answered a lot of them. So that is not an issue with this. Weight, got it. Still an issue. It's a hog. I get it. She could go on a diet. But some people feel a lot more planted on a heavier bike. I will say that this one does not seem to get as squirrely as this one does, especially whether it be racing or hill climbs or your single track. This one stays a lot more planted. So I will go ahead and give it that. And number 3, let's go ahead and say what everybody has already said before, the suspension. All right, guys, the only thing I am running on this suspension-wise has not changed since my original videos, except for one thing. I'm still running my heavy-duty front fork springs, heavier weight oil, but in the rear, as far as that BBR heavy-duty rear spring, I took that out. I put the stock spring back on this bike. It was just too bouncy. It was too, I don't weigh that much. I'm about 185, 190. So I put the stock spring back on it just for sag purposes, and it has been absolutely phenomenal. Still have the Corona rear linkage, still have the actual cleat that lifts you up there about 1.5 inches or so. But I put the stock spring back on there, and this thing is done absolutely fabulous. I personally do not see from somebody that rides this thing, as far as single track, trails, as well as racing this thing in Mid-South, GNCC, I don't see the reason to really need to go out there and spend anywhere from $900 to $1,200 just for your suspension. $1,200 for your suspension, y'all? Look, $1,200, that can get you a full big bore kit, a fully tunable ECU, a race or a rally camshaft. You can do so many things that are going to really improve the performance of the bike if that's what you want. If you just want it to ride like a Cadillac, sure, go for it. Spend your money on that suspension. But I'm more about of where you're going to get the most bang for your buck at on these bikes. To me, the more bang for your buck on these bikes, you can make this thing float like a Cadillac just with as far as raising this thing up just a hair if you wanted to, but also heavy duty springs, going ahead and just putting some heavier weight oil in there if you're a little bit heavier. That's going to improve it tenfold. If you're jumping the thing, hitting a motocross track, I'll go ahead and tell you, you probably got the wrong bike to be doing it as far as bottoming out and all, but maybe you do want to focus on more suspension wise. That's perfectly fine. But as far as bang for your buck, there's other ways to end up spending it on the CRF250F that's going to actually make a difference. So with your suspension, if you did want to end up getting as far as, you know, the heavy duty springs, heavier weight oil, you want to get a, you know, a heavy duty rear shock. Maybe you do want to end up getting it. That's perfectly fine too. No problem with it. I just found out that I was bouncing a little bit more than I would have liked to in the rear. It was a little too stiff for me going over stuff like rocks and things like that, or rhythm sections and all, as far as doing some off-road races, yes, sand areas, things like that. It was just a little bit too stiff for me. I wasn't feeling as planted on it. Now you can also end up upgrading your seat. All right, Guts Racing, I'll go ahead and throw them out here because I run them on all my bikes. I absolutely love their product. No, I'm not sponsored by them, but what I will say is that you can get a new seat foam, you can get the cover, all that stuff. You can raise it up as far as your seat height goes. You can get a higher seat, you get a lower seat, you get a stock seat, whatever you want to do. Regardless, there are so many options out there. So you've got a lot of stuff really at your disposal with these bikes, but I just wanted to go ahead and share a few things with you. But there you go, guys. Those are kind of just the things that I would or wouldn't change and what I've kind of learned along the way, okay? And I'm still going to share with you guys, just because we gave this to my son here for his birthday last year does not mean that we're done, okay? Obviously, Rock Crusher, we did nothing but ride the CRF. I forgot how much fun this freaking bike was, y'all. I absolutely loved it. My son was laughing at me for it. But we've got a lot of races and stuff coming up as well. So we're going to definitely get back out there to Rock Crusher though, just to check the place out, ride it a little bit more in depth with the CRF. And now that we've got a camera that won't fail us, we are going to hopefully be able to push everything out to you guys so y'all can see it for yourselves. But we do have a couple other trips planned. I'm not going to spill the beans on it just yet. One I'm pretty excited about. It is a new release single track. Not going to tell you guys the area. There may be a few other people that beat us to it, but it is technically very close to our backyard, only about like an hour and a half, 2 hours away. You guys probably already know where it is since I told you guys we are right here in Northeast Tennessee. But regardless, I appreciate you guys as always. If you guys ever have any questions, please drop them in the comments. Please be a friend, tell a friend, like, share, and subscribe, y'all. CRF content's never over, baby. We are only just beginning. We have so much more still for maybe not even just this CRF, but other CRFs in the future to continue sharing with you guys and putting them to the test. So thank you guys. We'll catch y'all here on the next go around. Be safe. We'll see y'all.